So, ladies and gentlemen, 2 out of 3 done, so it's only me left now from product areas. I'll give you an update on product area safes and vaults. We are, in terms of turnover, we are a third of the group. Looking year to date, we operate on a market which currently has a market size of about $3 billion. And we are strong in certain segments, and we are not as strong as in other segments, and I'll describe that a little more. Safes and vaults, from a user, from a value point of view, what is this about? It's about, naturally, it's about protecting values. Protecting values from theft, from burglary, but also from fire. It's also about insurance of compliance. Different regulatory requirements. Could it be in dealing with drugs, dealing with guns, dealing with insurance requirements also. And core value here is ease of access and use. And I think this is a little like an insurance. It's much about getting peace of mind to make sure that your valuables are stored properly. Some words about the market size. According to Global Safes and Vaults report, this one is from 2015. We will get a new one by beginning of next year, I think. But it says that the Global Safes and Vaults market is currently about $3 billion. And there is a good growth rate in this market. This includes the safes also used in bank automation. So part of what the deposit safes that Thomas was describing is included in here. So the estimate is that we have about 5% growth rate, and that's going to tick on and towards 6%. Looking across regions, it's better growth rate in APAC and Americas, and a little slower in Europe. Digging a little deeper into this market, consists of cash management safes, gun safes, depository safes, vaults and vault stores, media safes, and other safes. Gunnebo is active in most of these segments. The gun safes is basically the area where we're not active. Gun safes and gun regulation is very local, and we try to have global leverage, and gun regulation in Sweden, France, US is very, very different. So otherwise we are strong in cash management, depository safes, vaults and doors, and the others, and the one called other safes. Media safes could be very small, light things, which we are, which is not good for us. Some words about market challenges in safes and vaults. I'll start at the bottom. There is not like one global security standard monitoring this area, but so this is a quite regional approach here. But it's basically built on 2 main standards. In the US world, you have the UL standard, and then countries attached have developed standard based on the UL, while Europe and a lot of the rest of the world is based on the EN, the SEN standard. And then in many countries they have developed local standard based on this global standard. If you buy a safe for a certain need, of course we can get an upgrade, we can get certain service, but it's not a typical repeat business, right? Unless you change your infrastructure, unless you expand, etc. So it's you have to get the sales, but then you don't automatically get more business. That's a challenge in here. Of course, we sell on security. That's our core and that's our strength. And here, in many cases and on many markets, the security knowledge to see the difference between a properly certified safe from a safe that looks physically the same, it's a challenge. So there we need to really help to educate the market here to say that even if the safes looks the same, our certified safe is superior in terms of resistance. Some words about market trends for safes and vaults. When it comes to the locks, we see more and more digital locks. We still, the majority of the locks being sold globally is still mechanical locks or combination locks, but it's going more into digital locks. But the core of the product remains the same. It's being involved. We build smarter solutions to make it more cost effective, more burglar resistant. But so the digitalization is mainly linked to the lock side. We see, and I will talk more about that, demand going from a typical bank segment into other segments, and where safes are being, safe demand is going increasing in terms of personal safes and also to smaller companies. Biometric safes is also a trend, mainly in US. Take for instance, if you have a gun safe at your home, you might have a lock, etc. for it, but incidents have shown that it's not enough if you have the lock and someone else in family who's not supposed to to open the gun safe. If it's not protected by biometric, you can have an accident that the wrong member of the family does things that we're not looking for. And I'll talk more about increasing demand for safes and vaults, currently coming from the core in many markets, in bank, into other segments, pharma being one of them, retail another, hospitality, etc. I'll talk a little about the market drivers, and I will differentiate between the high-end segment, which is I think we have many people from the bank business here, right? It's more there we have typically the bank segment, there we have the government, the military, etc. That I call the high-end segment, and then I have something which I call the lower-end segment, which could be retail, small office, home office, but also private users. Yes, and Henrik talked about that before. Yes, there is a trend, particularly in the mature market, to close branches, which means that we are not opening as many branches as we are closing, and there is a trend to change the infrastructure there, and instead we go for more cash management solutions, including ATM. ATM is bankomat in Swedish, right? In Swedish, but. Of course, this creates challenges in some markets, but it also creates a lot of opportunities where this restructuring is happening, which means that they change the footprint. They might want to migrate things to certain branches, which means business for us. And also, when we take as an example, when we close branches in Sweden, where we used to have SDLs, safe deposit lockers, bankfack. That's also an opportunity for us then to go directly to the end customer and sell safes to them. So the business goes down from the bank, so we can make the direct business. ATM cash management growing. That's an opportunity for Thomas' business, but what we also in safes and vaults, we have an ATM safe business, which I will talk more about, and that's actually been one of the growing segments in safes and vaults. Otherwise, you could say on a high-end segment that many years ago you invested most of the money on the physical security. You bought high levels of certification on your products. Today, you buy maybe a little less level of certification, and you combine it with electronic security. We also see that as cash is more and more dealt with retailers and legislation is increasing demands, we also see an increased demand for protection outside the bank business. So this is an opportunity definitely for us. So what do we do to address these drivers? I mean, we talked about growing the cash management, and also how we address the ATM segment, which I will talk about more. We have also improved our competitiveness and the focus on lower segments. You know, we come from mainly serving, particularly in Europe, the top segment that we adapt our assortment, adapt our offer to the market to address the lower segment. And we also, which I will also talk more about, we also look at these new market segments and develop solutions and offering channels to market to address them directly. So that's little the market drivers on the high-end segment. And then we go a little down where we have what we call the low-end segment, which is not as high certification grades and which is a little lighter products. This segment is growing. There is, if you compare the different segments, this is where you have the high growth. We have high growth in general, but it's also powered particularly from a number of developing markets. We see, particularly in the mature market, that this is getting more commoditized. Online sales is increasing with price transparency as a consequence. And we also see that in this segment, the low-end segments with lower certification grades, is that it's important that we have a challenge here to educate and to train the users to understand the difference between the box without the certificate and the box with the certificate. And we work on that in terms of marketing, but also in terms of training. So what are the actions that we are taking to capture more of this low-end segment? We have and we are strengthening our offering assortment in terms of the lower segment. We are making products that are cheaper to produce, that are lighter and still keeping the certification level today. So we are increasing the bar here. We're also focusing on many markets on something we call the channel partner, to grow the channel partner business, which means that instead of traditionally selling through the high-end segment, direct sales, is that we work more with partners, provide the partners with a good assortment, effective processes, so we can build partnership with in an indirect way. Indirect business. You could say APAC and Americas is a more indirect business from history, while Europe is a more direct business. So the challenge to transform into indirect business is more in Europe than in APAC. We're focusing, of course, on markets where the growth is. We have good growth in many of these markets, but we also have more potential in here. I'll come back to our brand. I think one of the differentiator we have in this more commoditized product area is our brands, and we are leveraging that and using that asset as a differentiator. Then, of course, part of our marketing training is to explain to the market that there is a difference between that box and that box in terms of certification and the value that we provide. So we talk about safes and vaults. Here's some pictures what it could look like. Safes, one page, vault coming after that. Well, in this world of safes and vaults, we talk about safe enclosures, säkerhetsskåp in Swedish. We have the uncertified safes, which doesn't carry any certification at all. That's not our core business. Our core business is in the certified world. But it's not. It's both certified towards burglary, but another key area is certification towards fire resistance. The first product you see there, that's the fire resistance filing cabinet that we do in India for the Indian market. We sell thousands and thousands of those that you have in banks, for instance, or in government to protect your documents from fire. Up to the very right there, that's a high-end fire product called Fischer Bosch Diva. That one you can put in fire. It can withstand more than 2 hours fire with more than 1,000 degrees. You can still open, and after that you should be able to open it up with a lock, and inside the temperature should not have exceeded 50 degrees to protect your media. So that's yeah, we call it a dam safe, you always say, but that's has quite a capacity there. Yeah, and down there you see that's Chubb Invictus. That's a new range that we recently have launched with lower cost, lower weight, and that's quite competitive. That's we are selling good of. That's the ranges that we offer in safes. We are also strong in the vaults and doors area. And here this could be it could be central bank, bank branch, whatever, where you have a vault room. It could be built from panels that we assemble. A vault door which is certified for according to all the standards. And inside you can have a number of safe deposit lockers, electronic, mechanic, what have you. In addition to that, and here I think we are quite strong globally, we also have an automated, robotized safe deposit locker solution, which we call the Safe Store Auto, which means that you don't need to have the staff, the bank branch don't need to be open. You can access a dedicated area with your card. You can go to that terminal, like an ATM terminal, but not to get cash, but to get robotized access to your safe deposit locker. And this is typically sold by banks, but we also see a market now that there are other companies that, okay, banks don't want to do this anymore. So we have a number of companies around the world that's starting this as a service to sell this. And I think this is a market that can continue to grow, and we'll have a press release on that one also. Sales per region. I think we are quite evenly distributed according to the sales of Gunnebo. 60% plus in Europe, where France, UK is and Middle East, Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Middle East, the biggest markets. APAC, 23%. We have a good trend in APAC with the challenge though with India that we talked about before, that we've had very high dependency of the banking sector in India, which have financial challenges, and therefore we have lost volumes in India, but now we are trying to compensate that by going into other commercial market segments. So we've developed assortment, distributor channels, etc., to start to compensate that in India, and it's going well. Americas is 15%, and that's mainly Hamilton safes. We don't sell a lot in South America, for instance, so that's an opportunity. Customer segments. Yes, of course, we talked about bank, small, medium, and enterprises, especially with the vaults and the vault solution. We do sell today to warehouses storing high-risk goods, but that's also a good opportunity for us going forward. Pharmaceuticals to keep track, protect the drugs, important. Commercial sector. Hospitality, of course, if you go to hotel, you find hotel safe solution, but also retail. And retail, they both have physical safe solutions, but they also have the cash management solutions. But the good part is when Thomas sends a cash management solution, he buys the safe from me, so that's okay. Okay. One thing to emphasize here for Safes and Vault is the brand and our heritage in terms of brands, and I think no other competitor have stronger brands that has a good global coverage. Chubb Safes is maybe number one. Chubb Safes comes from started, was it Wolverhampton, 1818, so it's very long history, and in the Commonwealth, if you talk about Chubb Safes, it's almost like a safe is the same as you see there behind, like the Chubb Safes. In French-speaking languages, it's similar with Fischer-Bosch, and Fischer-Bosch also very long history, and they have the very particular lock solution, key solution that everyone in the business recognizes. So it's for in France, a safe in Fischer-Bosch is very much similar. Of course, we're using Gunnebo as a brand and for the new solution. In India, where we also have a strong position, we are number 2 in India for safes and vaults. We use Steelage, and that's also a well-recognized brand, which we are looking at also leveraging in other markets. In US, through the acquisition of Hamilton Safes, they are one of the top players. I would say they are one of the top 3 players in safes, together with Diebold there. So we have strong, and this is when you are in a more and more commoditized business, the value of the brand is very big. So the theme here, and we talk about, okay, what can we do? How can we leverage our position to grow? And I talked about the brands. I think brand is definitely something that helps us to open new verticals. I'll talk a little more into new market segments. We are traditionally strong in some segments, and that's also a little varying country by country, but that we target to capture growth in new segments. We also we have a global manufacturing footprint. I can produce things through license partners or through myself, all the way from Indonesia, China to US, etc. That's something that we can leverage. And I will talk a little about the ATM hardware business, which is an important segment for us. Then, with our heritage in security, physical security, understanding protection and the physics and all the material, etc. behind it, this is something that we are now working through innovation to evolve into new solution areas. And one such area is electromagnetic pulse cabinets. You know, we typically talk about protection from theft and fire, but this is also where you can combine the physical protection with the protections towards electromagnetic pulse, either if you want to destroy by sending in shock pulse, but also to protect people from listening to it. And that's in these days, I think you hear this in TV and radio a lot, and here we have a good solution, which I'll talk a little about. Plus, we have the SafeStore Auto. I talked about the robotized automation solution. We see how that could be applied not only in banks, but also into other application areas. Let's start with the ATM case. Bankomater, right? ATM market installed base has grown up to last 2 years, 3+% a year, and now they project that the installed base will grow with 2 percentage points. So not a very high growth in installed base, but the other side, or the positive side of this one, is that even if the installed base is not increasing, it's basically only increasing in APAC. The need for replacement is constantly there. If I buy a safe that's put in retail somewhere, it could be there very long time, doesn't give me new business. But for the ATM, they are typically replaced like every 8, 9 or 10 years, which means that if you have an installed base of 3 million, that gives an replacement business of maybe 400,000 say ATMs, and that's a business that we are part of. We are not ATM solution providers. We are not Wink or Nixdorf. We are not Diebold. We are not NCR, but we provide the physical hardware that's part of the solution. This is the biggest segments in safes and vaults globally. This is something we deal with not through the different sales company, but we deal with it centrally and through our global customers. And that means that we can manage the interface, the engineering, the design, the certification, etc., from one central point, and then we can produce it in US, factory in Holland, factory in India, or factory in China for our partners. And here We have been quite successful, and so this is a good part of definitely a good part of the safes and vaults business. And if you take NCR, and I will come back a little to NCR, you might have know NCR is the second biggest ATM producer in the world, national cash register there, right? We've been working many years together with them, and we have grown the business with them more and more. And today it's gone to the point where they don't have engineers working on physical security, designing safes and things like that. Some of the other ATM players have that, but NCR has said, Gunnebo, you do that for us. We outsource that service, certification management, etc. to Gunnebo, and so that's a strong partnership we have with them there. It's actually NCR is Gunnebo's overall biggest customer. I hope I was allowed to say that. Coming to a press release where we have had a good development in this segment. As I said, we've been working with NCR for a long time, but until recently they were working with another factory for their operations in US. But they are constantly looking for cost reductions. It's a very competitive market, and cost down, and then we provided them with a solution with our very good factory in Halol, India. We said that instead of you buying this made in US, we can provide you quality services at lower cost with logistics going from India. So that's after some good and long tough discussions there, they've agreed to that. So now they switched that business. So that's being now fed from our factory in India, the same factory that Robert talked about for Metro. So that's good, and that even strengthens the partnership that we have with NCR today. And that's annual volume of about 6 million. Innovation, going into new solution areas, leveraging the knowledge that we have. Here is another example that we put a lot of efforts into and that we see good potential for the future. Here, all critical information, all critical processes are today digital, right? Sitting in a server, sitting in an IT system somewhere. There is threat, of course, from you talk the traditional electromagnetic pulse that when you blow a bomb, all your IT equipment will be destroyed. But you also have the threat that you could listen into, or you could try to disturb you can disturb the information in sitting in the IT system. And the third thing is that, of course, you want to prevent people to get access so they can't. So it's like a safe in that safe sense also. So you can't get unauthorized access into this, so you can destroy it. And here we have for some time working close together with FMV in Sweden to develop the specification and solution for that. And this is we have a solution for that, which we are doing business with today, which is good business, but we also are extending this range, and we also see that other agencies, could be in Europe or outside Europe, is showing big interest for this. So we think this is it's an example of an area where we definitely can find growth. And here, it's not so commoditized as when you talk about low-end segments where you can compare price to etc. This will be unique in terms of specification. So better margins then. Yep. I mentioned the opportunity to use the safe deposit solution and the automated safe deposit solution also outside traditional banks. Here we have today also a press release on that we have gained such a significant such order to a Thai player active in China. And today our business footprint in China is mostly turnstiles with Robert, but we also see good opportunity to grow both projects, but also to grow the safe business in China. And so we are very happy to have to receive this order, which is leveraging the skills that we have with the robotized SSA solution. We have the very special round doors that we produce in our factories. We got the safe deposit lockers and the vault. So it's all in all, it's an order value of 3 million to be installed first half of next year. This year was also this safe store auto solution is something there are not so many players on this one, and we are strong in some markets, but we were also able to open new markets. New markets, for instance, in Vietnam was the first time this year. Pakistan was the first time this year. India, we had one first order recently, and we hope that that's also something we could leverage more in India. I talked about leveraging our solutions into other market segments, and here's an example from US where Thomas described the traditional bank setup with the drive-up banks and with the pneumatic solutions, etc. We have also shown example, and we aim to do more here with the pharma sector in US, where actually the requirements are quite similar, but you might not be storing cash as much as you're storing, and you need to protect drugs. Here they've seen an increasing amount of theft, both external theft but also internal shrinkage in the pharma sector. And the solution here is we can leverage a lot that we do from the bank sector, and here we are starting to do more make headroom in the pharma sector in US, and we think this could be a good starting point also to come into other potential market segments, and this example is in US, and distribution centers, for instance, where you deal with goods that's desirable. So safes and vault business, what are the routes to market? I talked about the ATM business where we have the partner business, that's a direct OEM sales that we deal with centrally. Otherwise we have a combination of the direct sales, the key account towards banks, etc., but also the indirect business through the channel partners, and I see the biggest efforts in terms of finding growth will be from the OEM side and from the indirect channel side, where we should be able to get more leverage and run more volumes. Okay, I think I'm coming to the summary here. So what have I been trying to tell you? We have strong brands. We need to leverage those brands. We need to leverage them more than we do today. We are looking into new market segments, new market verticals, where we traditionally are not so strong. And this varies a little market by market. So we can learn from one market who is successful here and leverage that into the next market and say, okay, what do we need to do in order to get leverage here and to enter this verticals? I think mainly we have the product, so I think it's much about getting the field, the sales force out there. They're addressing it through the right channel partners. We talked about the ATM, where we can leverage our manufacturing footprint. I think that's definitely a strength. I think what we showed now in India, both for ATM but also for turnstiles, I think that's definitely a strength that we can leverage. We talk about using our legacy, our knowledge in security, and evolve it into new solution areas. As the example there was the EMP, for instance, how we can combine the physical to the electronic protection. And then I also described for instance, the SSA solution that we can use both in bank, but that we can also use in different market segments. Could be like in a distribution center, or where you deal with drugs, or where you deal with different applications than just in the banks, as where it's traditionally coming from today. So, right, safes and vaults again. That's our heritage. That's we have very strong competence in terms of the physical security, and it's also the most global business that we have today. We have very strong brands. We have an agenda in place, both to protect the business that we have today, but also to target certain areas to grow in those. I mentioned the ATM. I don't think we've talked so much about lifting the hood to show the importance of the ATM segment. Here we have been successful with a number of customers. We are also working hard to gain more of the big global customers. And we are actually in ATM safes certified on that sector. We are, I would say, the number one player of the world today. We talked about going into new segments, into new verticals to reduce the dependency on bank. We talked about increasing market share in the lower segment through the channel partner sales with the right assortment, with the right processes, and the right channel partner approach. And then finally, we had the innovative solutions like the EMP, which I think has shown very good result in the markets where we have started so far. I think that can definitely help us forward. And last but not least, we talked before about productivity, and certainly we sit on a lot of the manufacturing footprint. We do a lot of the sourcing, so we work very hard every day to design cheaper products, which we have a lot of efforts now. We work with value engineering in order to reduce the cost of the volume that we are operating under today. That's from Safes and Vaults.
So can I ask a question?
Sure.
Maybe making a link between what was shown earlier about France being very domestic sales with 80-90%, and then you showing the safe brands seem to be very local as well. Is that one of the problems? Is the safe business local? Is the UK Chubb, is France Gunnebo, and if it is, how do you break out of it?
Chubb is not UK, but Chubb comes from UK, and Chubb is quite known in the Commonwealth, which is much bigger than UK. But it's true that Fischer-Bosch is very strong in France, but it's and in northern Africa, for instance, parts of Belgium, Switzerland, Fischer-Bosch is strong. But if you go to Germany, exactly, that's true. So it means that so I don't think the leverage for Fischer-Bosch in Germany. I don't think it's big. Yeah. There are German safe manufacturers and German brands there, yeah. But in Germany, we actually sell, we are quite strong. It's a strong SDL and SSA market, and then it's Gunnebo that we are leveraging there. Yeah.
I think that was good, and we will have a session with a Q&A session after the demo. So they're good with questions. We want to have more questions then. So thank you, Rolf, and thank you, Robert, for good product presentations.